It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time yet again for the Andy and Rem Show. And if I remove this thumbnail, you'll be able to see our faces right now. Hello there, episode 118. And welcome yet again, Mr. Remington, for another show, another extravaganza of wargaming goodness being delivered to the senses of the masses via the power of the internet. How are you this week?
I'm good, Andy. What's that sign you've got there?
Well, look at this here. This is actually a trans rights sign, which I was holding at a protest in Nottingham the other day.
Oh.
There you go. Even though technically, because of camera wizardry, Mr. Remington can't actually see it right now. A little behind the scenes info there. So, we've actually got a very packed house already. I think making the show like 10 minutes late seems to bring in a bigger audience. We're up to 18 viewers right now, which is good for the start.
I've always been fashionably late, you know? Good to make an entrance.
Yeah, I could sense there's kind of some undercurrent building in the audience for the last 15 minutes or so. The numbers were going up, the chat was on fire. Obviously you were in there doing your warm-up act before the main event comes on.
Well, there's been quite a bit of musical chat, Andy. Apparently you play the trombone?
That is an unsubstantiated rumour, actually.
Did you ever learn an instrument?
I didn't, but the one slightly amusing musical story I've got is that when I was in music lessons at school, everyone had to everyone had to play a piece of music on the keyboard for the whole class and the teacher. But because I didn't bother to learn any of them, I decided to make one up. And I was hoping I wouldn't get called on to do it because it was really late in the day, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get away with this. And then the person who was before me was really quick with their performance, so it did actually get to me. And I thought, okay, here we go. So I just kind of went dun 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 dun, like back and forth on the keys like that for a little while.
Sounds like Adele.
And then stopped. And the teacher's exact words were, "I don't mean to be rude, but what was it?" And then the bell, it was the end of the day, and I was able to escape without explaining myself. There you go.
Well, you didn't realise it, but you'd written Adele, that famous Adele song.
So this, I assume that's made millions, so quite possibly I could be in line for a bit of a windfall if I get Remington Industries' legal team on that.
Tens of millions. Well, look, here's the other thing, Andy. It's interesting because I think if anyone's new to this show, they haven't heard you sing yet. And it's really a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Well, I wouldn't say it's once in a lifetime because that has happened at least twice.
It's happened twice, but it happened when I wasn't here and you decided to do the theme song a cappella, which means just voices. It was it went. Let's just say it went.
Well, maybe if there's popular demand for it, then maybe I will sing at some point in the next few weeks.
I think you should definitely write in the chat if you want to hear Andy's angelic voice. It is a wonder to hear. You'll never be the same again.
I might have to complete the selling out of this show and only sing when there's cash donations flowing in.
There used to be a term called castrato, and it reminds me of that when you sing. You might call it angelic.
Some would call it angelic, certainly.
It's very medieval, I'd say.
Medieval? Well, you would have been around then to hear what the singing was like, I suppose, wouldn't you?
You're catching up with me. There's a lot of grey in that beard, Andy. I don't think... Didn't you get my Just for Men? I thought I sent you. No?
Well, I decided to just. I'm going to do it gracefully instead. Instead of clinging to the past, I'm going to embrace the future.
It's going George Harrison now. You know, getting there. All things must pass.
Okay, so before we completely alienate the audience with our non-wargaming chat, how about we hear about some rather spicy Remington Industries news?
Ah,
Yeah, because
you,
obviously you've been dipping not just your toe anymore, you've dipped an entire foot into the stock market. And do you want to
it's bloody crazy, right?
give us some updates?
Bloody crazy. You know, like I thought about this about 10 years ago when I was sitting in a tiny, like, one bedroom flat, and I was so poor, but I just received a lump sum payment for a bunch of work I'd done. And I thought, what can I do? Well, what do rich people do? Well, they put it in the stock market, don't they? Where do you think all your pension money goes? Right? What's happening with that? Well, the pension company puts it in the stock market, makes a lot of money, and then just pays you a little bit, and then keeps your money when you die. Anyway, that's beside the point. Um, I said to myself, why don't I invest in the stock market? And I made the idiotic mistake of telling people my intentions rather than just doing it, right? Which is, maybe something I've been trying to work on recently, just like doing it rather than talking about it. So everyone said, "Oh no, you're going to lose loads of money doing that," and it's like, well, not if you follow the basic rules. Invest in what you know. Only invest with what you can afford to lose. Okay, and do your due diligence. And that's what I've done. What do I know? Well, I know Games Workshop. I know and love the models and the company and whatnot. And if you've got that picture, maybe the audience can see the.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have that picture
Oh,
because you
bloody
sent
hell,
it to me
Andy!
far too late. You know what I can do? I
Do
can
it.
try and get it on my phone and crudely hold it up to the screen. Let's have a look.
Well, while he's doing that, I vowed to myself. Well, I think I blew all that money I had anyway. I didn't put it into the stock market, but anyway, years later, I thought, right, well, I'm going to do it. So I did, and well, I'm 30% up. And there's been a few ups and downs, especially with the Corona crash, and many people fearing there's going to be a second lockdown. And
Okay, let's have a look at this.
there,
There you go. Look at that spike.
okay. So what you're looking at there, that's the Games Workshop history of their stock price, and you can see that it basically did nothing for like 20 years, and then in 2014 and 15, it started to rise, and it's never stopped rising since. So
Stopped rising. It started rising around the time we started doing our show. Just in case
it did.
anyone's interested.
It did, and it also started rising when Remington Industries was first founded. So it's just a happy coincidence, maybe. But there you go. That's the stock news. Basically, for Games Workshop, it seems to be kind of holding steady while everything else is kind of falling apart in fear. Games Workshop's holding firm. So things can only get better, right?
Is it another record high this week?
It's not been a record high, no. No, unfortunately, things don't always keep going up and up every week, but it certainly didn't. It went from, I think its high was £85, and it's now something like £83. So, not too bad.
It's not like you were going to cash out anyway.
I came close. I've come close, but I've thought for you guys, I'm just going to hold on. You can join me on this journey. Maybe I'll lose everything. Maybe I won't. Maybe I can buy an army with my profits. I don't know. Or
Go
maybe
through.
donate it to Andy.
We'll all go through this emotional roller coaster together, and then one day, if it does all come crashing down, you'll get to witness Mr. Remington's emotional revelations about his tumbling stocks live on the show. And look
There you
forward
go.
to that. It'll either go that way, or it'll reach such a high that he won't be able to resist that temptation to cash out and then blow all his money on a brand new army.
Well, the question is, though, Andy, has Games Workshop reached its zenith as a company? Do you think we're at a golden age now? Do you think it can get any better? Do you think you can get it bigger?
I think there's the major frontier that they haven't really cracked and exploited yet. They do not have a Netflix series.
Not yet. Did you know one's in the works?
I know there is something in the works, but
it's Eisenhorn, 40k crap.
If you look at various other properties, intellectual properties out there in the world, it does take them up to that next level when they get the series on Netflix or Amazon, whatever. The most recent example in kind of the fantasy genre would be The Witcher, and The Witcher games suddenly got a huge resurgence in popularity again because of the TV series.
And the books, right?
Yeah, the books as well. So I'm sure there are ways that GW can continue to expand, not necessarily infinite growth, but there's still some wiggle room, I think. Stu says Eisenhorn will be on Netflix next year. Well, hopefully all these things that are supposed to be on Netflix next year actually will be, depending on the state of the world and whether things can physically be created. So, Mr. Remington, what are we looking at on the screen here? Because this is some of your handiwork, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what I've been working on. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I've finished painting all my armies, right? And that, if you ever go and look at my channel, not many people do, but if you go back 5-6 years ago when I was doing semi-regular videos, I was complaining that I had 9, 10, 11 armies, 12 armies, and I hadn't finished painting any of them, and it just seemed like such a, anyway, I've painted all my armies, well, apart from the last army, and that's the Halflings. And I've probably got about 20 figures left to paint, and it's an all-metal army, and it's from various different companies, loads of GW stuff. The ones you're looking at there are White Knight miniatures. I found White Knight Emporium, I think it's called. It's a blog site, and the guys there, I think they're actually from Nottingham, but they, it's just a guy who sort of replicates the sort of 1980s, 1990s sculpts from GW of Halflings, and the sort of Renaissance feel. So he's done a bunch of dwarves as well. So you can make a whole army in that Renaissance style. So I picked up a few of those. You gave me 2 actually, the Cock Riders.
Yes.
Yeah, they're both finished. So you can use these as a Cities of Sigmar army, I suppose. But this is the only army that I'm keeping on square bases. So I've probably got about 150 halflings, and I'm using the rules, which were alternative Warhammer rules, or not so much rules, but the bestiary, if you like, of the halflings. But yeah, a lot of fun, really. I'm not like mad fan of halflings or anything. I think they're really pathetic. But
you're actually going to hold on to them, though?
Army. Pardon?
You're actually going to hold on to this army?
I think, yeah, definitely. It's a really niche army, and I've got a lot of GW, White Knight miniatures. What's that company? I got in contact with this guy called Paul Stanley, who sculpts a bunch of halflings as well, and we came to a deal. And that monk you see at the back standing on the barrel that's leaking, that's one of his models. So yeah, pretty cool, right? I might do a little showcase at some point
on your channel.
It could be on my channel, but your channel seems to get all my audience, so maybe I should put it on your channel.
It does, but that's partly because you haven't done a video in about 5 years.
Well,
actually, no, that's a lie. For about 5 years. You did a 20-second video where you were attempting to live stream something awkwardly. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if that video still exists or whether you took it down. Whether you even know how to take videos down. That's the question.
For sure I do.
Yeah. Anyway, so the couple of juicy... In fact, before we go on to the main topic for tonight, why don't we quickly touch on the GW controversy surrounding their limited release of the new 40k box. So I'm sure, as a 40k fanatic that you are, you've been following this very closely. Is that safe to say?
What is it again?
GW.
No, I don't know anything about that.
Well, whenever they release things nowadays, it seems to be in limited quantities, and they made it known that the new 40k box was going to be limited, and it looked like quite an action-packed, juicy box that people were very excited about.
Oh yeah.
And it sold out in about 2 minutes everywhere. Websites were overloaded, crashing, servers were exploding everywhere. Shops were burning down because of the excess web traffic. And people were buying up like as many as they could so they could then sell them at a huge profit on eBay. But the twist in the story is that GW have now announced that they're going to be making them to order, so there is no limit on how many they're going to do. Which means that people are potentially stuck with multiple copies that they won't be able to sell for quite as hefty a profit as they thought. Which is a nice ending to it, I think.
Yeah, but does it mean they won't sell out?
It means they are not going to sell out. They're making as many as they need, is what they announced.
That's a good idea then, right? If you want it, you can get it, and then...
So do you think that was all planned out beforehand, though? Do you think they created this artificial scarcity, drove up the demand, got people salivating and clicking that refresh button, wearing out their keyboards, and then, knowing full well that when it was all sold out, they'd say, actually, you know what? There was such unprecedented demand that we're now going to make enough for everyone. You think that was planned, like a marketing gimmick, or do you think that was actually just a reaction to overwhelming demand that they weren't expecting?
No, you know, one thing I'll say about Games Workshop, right? And I'll go back to the investing thing. If you go on their website and you read their mission statement in their letter to investors sort of thing, which anyone can do, you know, they're a really good company. They're a really honest company, and their motto is like honesty, integrity, courage. I'm going to say. I think it's those three things.
That's the motto for this show.
So I just think you know they are an honest company, and they do things like really by the book. They're not dodgy in any way. I don't think they'd do that. I think given the pandemic, you know, not everything's crazy, man. So maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. Has there been loads of demand for this box anyway?
Well, yes. For some reason.
Doesn't it funnel the traffic to Games Workshop to buy it rather than buying it for, you know, much more on eBay because it's sold out everywhere else?
Well, when they sold out of it, obviously people would then be scrambling around going to all the third-party sellers. And then when they were all sold out, they would start looking on eBay, presumably, at people that don't even have the game in their hand yet. They just have 5 hypothetical copies that they managed to pre-order. And all the Facebook trading groups were full of people trying to trade away either the entire game or parts of it before they have it in their hand, which in most trading groups is against their rules. They make sure you actually have the item in your possession before they let you sell it on there. So I'm sure a lot of people were banned from those groups over the last few days.
So people are ordering more than they need and then trying to sell it at a premium?
Yes.
And do you think Games Workshop are clamping down on that?
I don't know if they're clumping down on that intentionally. I'm sure that's a side effect of what they're doing.
I mean, I know that's something people moan about a lot, so maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're intentionally clamping down on that, though, or whether that's just something that is, as a byproduct of their decisions, something that's going to be affected that they weren't really thinking about before. Anyway, I don't think we need to talk about that too much because it happens to some extent with most of their releases, so we're going to keep coming back to it.
This is a bit of a guess, but they have Games Workshop. Haven't they finished or building a huge warehouse? So maybe they are producing as they need to, rather than having to order outside and bring it in. You know, make the models and the boxes somewhere else. Maybe they're able to make it everything in house. It seems like that's where Games Workshop want to go. They want to make it's like like Tesla. You know, they want everything to be in-house. They don't really want to use batteries from Panasonic if they can help it. They want to be able to produce everything. It's called vertical integration. See, you see how I'm learning all this stuff? Good, right?
While running Remington Industries, you're actually picking up all the lingo. Yeah, presumably,
So what do you think?
especially in these unprecedented times, then I imagine businesses will want to have more elements of their production under their control rather than relying on outside sources in other countries that could suddenly be cut off for various reasons.
Yeah, when you think about the coming storm, and when I say that, I mean that there's going to be a lot of people without a job, right? That's just a fact. And so there's got to be new innovation. There's got to be new opportunities coming. But I think Games Workshop won't be a company that will be sacking people because of the pandemic. Maybe some of the independent retailers might suffer unless they're doing a booming trade online. But I do think Games Workshop are definitely going to survive this and have. That's good for us
GW
all, right?
seem to be thriving, and when GW thrive, then more people are going to be brought into the hobby overall, since Games Workshop do have that presence out on the streets when shops are allowed to open. And of course, they've got this massive IP that sucks everyone in as well, and then they can then filter down to the other layers of the wargaming hobby as well.
I mean, the thing is, Andy, I've found out that Leicester are probably going to be in another lockdown. We're already in an extended lockdown, and I think they're going to extend it even further. And it just sucks because I'm on holiday from work, and it's like it's not that I necessarily would go out everywhere anyway, but the fact that I can't just brings this dark cloud over
Well,
your
at
head.
least it gets your halflings painted. And we just have to keep
Yeah,
our eyes
that's true.
peeled and keep our senses keen and wait for the right moment, and then
Yeah, that's true. But look, I can't change the topic until I plug the name of the company which briefly escaped my mind, and that is the Battleforge. The Battleforge. And they're the only company, the Battleforge, right? Yeah, they're the only company that do halfling sheep riders. And that's a sheep rider there. Can you see that?
yep, they
He's
do have
got a
some very
large
nice models, the
broom.
Battleforge.
Yeah, so Paul Stanley from Battleforge gave me a bag full of halflings, a tree man, 20 halfling cavalry. The halfling cavalry are a bit of a joke because in the rules that I'm looking at, every turn you have to roll, and if they roll a 6 or is it a 1, I can't remember, then the halfling basically falls off his horse. They're not really naturally good at riding.
So, looking down the chat here, there's quite a few calls for me to sing, which is something that could be factored in. Could be brought into the Forest of Rem at some point. Could be maybe encounter a singing character. That would be very interesting, I think.
Guys, you've got to hear Andy sing. it's I don't know if you could
it's a
put a voice
delight.
to the Banshees in the Nighthaunt army. Andy's voice would be perfect to go along with them. That's all I'll say.
Could be.
Someone says lumping Kroops fighting cocks.
Yeah, you've got some of that
Yeah,
unit, haven't you?
I've got a big unit of those guys. Of course I have. Quality, mate.
And
Yeah.
okay, so the main topic for tonight. We'll see exactly how long we stay on it, but so I'm going to pull up a page now that Mr. Remington referred me to before the show, which I have seen before, but it's going to be very handy for our topic because what we're going to be discussing is the races that are likely to be featured in Warhammer The Old World and which ones we'd like to see featured in there as well. So if anyone's got any comments on this, start throwing them in right now and we'll refer to those in a minute.
I think, Andy, maybe you and me are agreed where we don't want to just see like the same old, right? We could talk about high elves, wood elves, orcs, goblins, dwarves, but we know and love all those already. But they've already hinted at bringing out a Kiev faction, haven't they? Right?
Kislev, yeah. It is safe.
Kislev. Why did I say Kiev? Because Kiev is in Ukraine. Okay, yeah, okay. You can see what I mean.
So you haven't just been eating chicken. Yeah.
They're bringing out the Kislevites, right? So if they're going down that path, perhaps they're also going to get more like specific. So that's led us on to some more unique choices. And there's a guy called Mattis Eliasson who's devoted his hobby to this alone, really.
Or at least he did a few years back.
He did, yeah. But he does update. He updates his rules and whatnot. And there must be a community that plays his alternative Warhammer armies. But let's just have a look at them, right? Because they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, because it seems like GW probably aren't going to put too much focus on the traditional races because people have already got all the models and maybe they wouldn't spend untold thousands. But if they're going to bring out some of this new fancy pants stuff that was maybe hinted at more so than heavily represented in the rules before, then that could be an avenue they want to explore.
The Pirates of Sartosa. That was a board game that I invented. But there you go.
And
that would be a quality faction, wouldn't it?
Well, let's have a little look through his book here and look at some of the artwork.
This is pretty snazzy, right? It's like we're reading the book together. This should be like what we do with the Forest of Rem, right?
Flash Player is trying to update. So,
God.
While I try and deal with that, away from the watchful eye of the public, let's talk about some of those races. So, pirates. There hasn't really been a pirate faction in the Warhammer game that I can think of. There's been individual units, like you've got Long Drongs, Slayer Pirates.
Yeah, and you've got a Man-Eater Pirate, and there was some Undead Pirates, well, the Sartosa faction, but there wasn't ever a whole unit or an army, as far as I know.
No, and in Total War Warhammer, of course, there's a pirate faction, kind of undead pirates.
Yeah.
Have you played as them?
Yeah. I have actually. Yeah, really enjoyable.
Now, do they have any models available? Maybe through Forge World or something?
What, that are in the Total War?
Yeah, any of the units represented in the game, or have they just gone from artwork?
Yeah, no, there are. Oh, one of the hero characters is the Forge World. What are they called? You only got these big headphones on. Your mind just goes blank. The big grizzly thing that's eating a horse. Scary monster. Ghost. Someone's going to say it in the chat. Help me out, guys.
I don't remember.
Oh, they're not even listening to us. They're just writing. They're writing whatever. I don't know what they're doing there. Help me out. Vampire Coast was the thing. Okay, they don't know what they're writing there. They're just having a party. They're having their own little party. Mongol. Stu Gibson on point every time. The Mongol. Yes, you have the Mongol. That's a bit like Mongol. Did you know that in Mongolia they discovered the plague? I read that in the newspaper recently.
I did hear something like that.
Someone had ate the flesh of this raw animal and they'd contracted the bubonic plague.
Which is exactly what this year needs, isn't
it? You've got banshees you can have. Yeah, that's kind of it. You've got some like flying zombies. They're quite funny because they're a bit naff, but flying zombies with, pistols.
So in terms of pirate-themed factions, there's a lot of unexplored ground for them to delve into then, in terms of a model range.
There is. I was hoping that maybe, but this is maybe more of Age of Sigmar, but they do the flying goblins,
Flying goblins is definitely an Age of Sigmar thing.
Right, okay. So pirates, what would they be? What race would they be? Well, yeah, undead. Make that the undead one. That's definitely a thumbs up from me.
I could get behind that. If you don't want to have an undead faction that's in any way similar to the ones that came before, if they're focusing, everything else still exists in the old world, they're just putting the spotlight in different areas, then I think that could be something for them to focus on. Undead pirates.
Definitely.
So we'll put that down as
You've
one
already
that
got
we definitely want.
You've got a bit of scenery already, haven't you? You've got that ship, and they could just, there could be a lot of conversion stuff going on. That'd be fun. You've got cannons. You've got great characters you could use. Weird and wonderful sea beast, the Kraken. I don't know. Yeah, that's a thumbs up from me. Can we see the pictures?
We can't, because I haven't been able to get that to load up properly. So
Well,
that's
if you
a
just
bit
load up the
toast at the
first
moment.
screen, we could just at least see the front cover, right?
Well, we can't actually because it's totally died.
That sucks.
The technology has failed, unfortunately.
Can we share my screen? Let me just give me. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can see it fine. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a screenshot, and then it can't harm us, right? you can't get out of Remington's clutches.
So,
Mateus.
Another thing, when I pitched this idea for the topic of the week on Facebook and the various other social media outlets, one of the races that everybody was clamouring to see, possibly because of my beautiful thumbnail art, was Chaos Dwarves. Big hat Chaos Dwarves. And they're a race that haven't been represented in a long time, other than the Forge World army.
Yeah.
So, would you like to see Chaos Dwarves as a faction they put a bit of focus on? Or do you think they've had too much representation already, even though it's never been in centre stage in the last couple of decades?
They could make those models like made to order again, but then I don't think they would go with what I've seen from their plans for the Kislev Redux. So I can't see that happening. No.
You think
they could be cool?
They could perhaps add to the Chaos Dwarf range that's already available through Forge World and plug them into the game.
Great. Let me send these pictures. You can share it with everybody now. There you go.
You would think that, wouldn't you? But it's not that easy.
Now, if you're wondering where Total War get their lore from, I think it's almost certainly these books. Well, I could be wrong, but Anyway, so anyone in the chat? Let's see what they're saying in the chat. Are they giving us any suggestions here?
They are. Mickey says we want Femir.
It's funny she should say that, because there has been a whole alternative army rulebook for Femirs, which Andy's going to show you the front cover of. In the chat, I'll put a link, guys, so you can peruse this with us.
So, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Put a link in the chat so people can just look at it themselves, since the technology has failed us temporarily.
It won't let me add. Remove any web addresses and try again.
Maybe if you get rid of the actual web part of it at the start, people can just put that in themselves.
I don't know how we do that.
Speaking of you don't know how to do something, I believe, who was it said it earlier? Radbat said, Uncle Rem versus the PC. Yeah, so I think you're going to be referred to as Uncle Rem from now on.
No, it won't let me bloody share a web page. That sucks, man. You know what I can do, though? I can put it in the comments. No, I can't. Oh, that sucks.
You know what? You can post it in the Facebook group. Or on the Andy and Rem Show Discord server. People can find it in there. So the Femir.
That Discord's great, man.
It is. It's some nice real-time interaction. So Femir, the first time I was exposed to them would have been in Hero Quest, I think. There was a few Chaos Warriors and a few Femir in there, which kind of the bigger of the enemies. And what was your first exposure to that cycloptic beast?
The Femir. There was a few models in the 80s. I'm sure there was a Femir model. I never owned one before, so I can't quite put my finger on it. We'll have to look at the models. This is great. Your post has been submitted and is pending for approval by Andy. It's
Well,
bloody my show as well. I can't even post on it. So that's the power.
well,
I
I've
use.
seen the things that you accidentally post, so it's good that those checks are in place. You know what? I'm going to go and approve that right now. There you go. So if you go to the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group, you can see Mr. Remington's post in there, and you can follow along with us.
An admin approved your post. An admin. It's just you. But okay, it's all good. It's funny because all the races, right, that people are suggesting in the chat have all been done before, and Andy's going to prove it with a picture. Mickey says, "For me, we're a bit rapey." Oh, she's deleted the message. That was just getting good.
I don't think we need to hear about that.
I think she might have made a little mistake there. Will Matthews, hey Will, still room for Tilia. You say Tilia or Tylia? I like Tylia.
I would have said Tilia.
Tilia, Estalia, Kislev as new army. Yeah, that'd be cool. Estalia's too close to Spain, though, isn't it? Like,
well, there's a lot of these races that they put in that were only hinted at were very close to existing or ancient civilizations. Just different flavors of human faction. So it remains to be seen how many of those they'll explore, and when they do, they're more likely to make them more fantastical, like we've seen with the Kislev. More bears, more magical weapons, and so on. I don't think we'll see anything that's down to earth with too much of a resemblance to the real civilizations.
So with Kislev, give us we'll have a unique model for each race, right? So you're saying what for the pirates? What's their unique model?
Their unique model.
A unique model in the army, yeah.
Some big, juicy centerpiece model.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
Well, if they're undead pirates, it would have to be some giant ghost ship, wouldn't it?
Ghost ship, love it. Okay, great. What about Kislev? Did you say something about bears?
Well, they have bears, so would you go for something like a big ice monster or an ice giant just ripping off Mantic?
An ice giant for Kislev. Well, I've never heard of that before. An ice giant.
So,
Isn't about that. No, that sounds too Norse. That would be Norse. And speaking of Norse, that could be a faction either.
what about halflings then?
Halflings.
Do you think halflings will get any kind of representation in the old world? Or do you think they're seen as just a comical relic of the past?
It would so make sense. I wish they would, man, because who doesn't love the hot pot? You know, or the big baggage train, or halfling cooks.
And they've never even had a real full-on halfling army, have they?
No, you could get. Well, they had units like halfling wives, and they have special rules that if any halfling lads get killed within sort of 6 inches of them, then they go into a frenzy. Which I
yes,
like.
but that was never in the official rules, though, was it?
No, in these day and age, they wouldn't have like halfling wives, would they? Because it's kind of a bit, you know what I mean?
A bit old-fashioned.
It's a bit old-fashioned, probably, but I love the sentiment because we are in the old world after all, so why not? They had swan riders, halfling swan riders, which I think it could be magnificent, really. The swans are quite vicious, but they're quite beautiful too. So that's I like that. And of course, the ram riders, halfling ram riders. You can get a few models of those actually with alternative companies, but there you go.
There are some people, I don't know if they're in the chat right now, but some of my subscribers who've been around since back in the day for the old Warhammer Fantasy battle reports will remember lots of these halfling units from Halfling Pete's army, the battle reports I had back in the day, including swan riders, which I think he just had toy swans with halflings stuck on them, and the swans weren't actually painted because they were already in that colour when they were purchased. And we've got a suggestion here. Dead Gamer, the legend returns. Goat dolphins. Now, is that a race or a monster or a centerpiece model?
Is it on land or sea? Or both?
That's the question. Maybe it walks on land with its goat legs, and then it swims in the sea with its dolphin fins.
Well, the Quizmeister General, Raphael Madge, is here. Hey, Raphael. Good to see you guys. Badger wasps. Oh, well, there was a unit. They were beekeepers, weren't they? Halfling beekeepers. And they throw their beehive.
Yes,
and
I
sort of-
actually handcrafted some beehives from green stuff. There's little
did?
bees coming out of them, and I'm sure you've seen those.
Yeah, they were cool, man.
So what do you think about this badger wasp idea then? Now, I would think the way this year's been going, there would be a headline on a news website: "Plague of badger wasps invades," and then whichever country it's going to be. And there wouldn't actually be badger wasp hybrids. There would be wasps that are so big that have a kind of coloration on them that's similar to badgers, and they're very aggressive, like a honey badger. And they're just going to be wiping humans off the face of the earth because they're so terrible.
It's just a lovely word, that honey badger. Kind of a term of endearment, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hello,
but
honey
you
badger.
don't want to try to endear yourself to a honey badger. They're
I'm
not
gonna
the
try
they're not
it
the
when I'm talking
friendliest.
to ladies. I'm going to say, hello, honey badger.
And see if they behave like a honey badger. Just start
Andy,
hideously
this sucks, man.
brutalizing
Can't you
you.
show people the pictures?
No.
Oh, come on.
You know what I'm going to do? Let's try something here.
Do it.
So,
While you're doing that, I'll do the chat. Raphael, have you talked about fishmen? No, we haven't. Can't believe we forgot about fishmen would be great. Weren't we all gutted when we didn't get the fishmen we wanted? We got sea elves instead, but they weren't even sea elves. Amazons and Slan, absolutely. Let's get some lobotomized slaves going for the Slan army. Remember them models? Amazons would be cool. But you know, guys, everything you're saying is in these bloody pictures, which Andy is about to sort out, and you won't regret it. Because these are wicked. This guy has spent 30 years finding every piece of Warhammer lore to do with these alternative armies. He's put them in this one beautiful place. It's awesome, man. And Astalia is there as well. Yes, Astalia is there. Thamir are there. Amazons are there.
okay, I'm attempting to
few
wrestle
more.
with the technology while I've obscured the screen from everybody.
Do it. It's looking good. It's a black screen though.
Yes, that's the plan.
Halfling walrus riders. I like that. TT Combat. Oh, TT Combat. Yeah, is another one. Yeah. And the assault group as well. You can get White Knight minutes on the assault group, except the page was down today. That was a bit annoying. But yeah, TT Combat. I haven't bought any of those ones yet, Graham. I'm going to try those because they do some pig riders. They do some halfling pig riders. I'm going to check them out. And what are the models like? Any good? Got to get Graham on the show. Guys, you've got to come onto the show with us. It's pretty good. Come on, Andy, you can do this, man.
I'm sure I can. It's wrestling with technology while also sharing my entire screen for the people with bits of it hidden. That's hilarious.
Well, I'll keep talking. Pirates of Sarto's a wicked one. Now, we haven't spoke about Cathay, have we? And we haven't spoke about Nippon. Because these are places which are briefly mentioned here and there in the old world. And a lot of people hoped they would appear in Total War Warhammer. But anyone who actually knows a thing or two about Warhammer would realize that they probably would never be included because they're so far away on the map, right? But Nippon is basically a rip-off of samurai culture, of course, but in Warhammer. And Cathay was sort of ancient Chinese. So you had things like rocket launcher and pagodas. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? A line pagoda. There was a range of models that had something like that that looked pretty sick. And with Nippon, of course, you get the ninjas, You could get like warrior monks. The old Oriental adventurers. Yes, that was Marauder Miniatures there. You can still see them on eBay. If you look up Marauder Miniatures, you can find. I've got a Marauder Miniature Ninja somewhere. They're actually quite small. Quite small miniatures, those. But yeah.
Well, you know what's really fun?
What?
You know, I've fixed the problem, but now none of the books are actually loading up. So the people aren't going to be able to see them.
Use the picture that I sent you. Come on, Andy.
I think at some point we're going to have to come back to this topic. Because the failure of technology. You know what? Let's try something else. Hold on.
Alright, so we've had Dogs of War. Dogs of War would be flipping amazing, right? And then they could relaunch all their old Dogs of War miniatures, right? So what about Dogs of War? We demand it. Dogs of War, big combat in the old world. Some wicked characters in there, and that covers things like, you know, Talia. You had a lot of like mercenaries in Dogs of War, gold fags ogres. You had those crossbowmen that had the wings on, and then you had those duelists, and then you had that sort of fat guy that was the sort of the treasurer, and then Bergonzo's besiegers or something like that. That was like a cannon led by a horse. Amazons. What would be a great character figure in an Amazon army?
How about, get this, now this is a bit crazy, what about an Amazon that's just a bit taller than all the rest?
An Amazon that was taller than the rest?
Yeah, is that a bit too wild and out there for you to comprehend?
That's boring, man.
That was kind of the joke.
Will Matthews, the Hobgoblin Khan army. Yes, the Hobgoblin Khan. Let's get the Hobgoblins back on the menu, guys.
I could get behind that.
Helping you out here, Andy. A lady on a crocodile. You like it?
But there isn't enough. What would be the term? The world isn't crocodilic enough. Not enough crocodiles represented. There's one in Necromunda. Kind of a mutant crocodile.
Yeah, definitely. Croc-Gar. Croc-Gar is a you know, lizard man character, isn't he? An Amazon war mammoth. We don't get Steve, thanks for the comment. You don't get mammoths in the jungle, do you? You know, the fur wouldn't really be.
You don't really get a lot of mammoths anywhere, to be honest.
Brad Jimenez says a Xena type Amazon. Well, I think they'd all be kind of Xena warrior princessy, wouldn't they? What about some male slaves in the Amazon army? That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Wearing loincloths. And all the Amazons are like dressed in like jeweled like gowns and cloaks, but like the guys are all these like naked, pathetic kind of slaves. Cannon fodder. That would kind of be a good twist, I think. There you go, Amazons. Let's move on. What else we've got? Andy's.
Brad says wild capybaras. War capybaras. Do you know what that is? It's like a giant guinea pig, basically.
Does it have a flappy tail?
I don't know.
Well, while Andy's working on this picture still, what else we've got?
No, picture's not coming.
Well, I'll read them out. We've got Empire Knightly Orders. So that's where you had things like Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Knights Panther. That'd be pretty cool. I think you could cram them into. The Dogs of War, maybe. The cult. How about this one? The Cult of Ulrich. What about that? If you want to get into the old world, right? They feature like heavily. Middenheim, right? Middenheim features heavily in the end times. So that, if you don't know what that is, it's like, the Empire worship like Sigmar, right? But Middenheim, which is like in the north. Is it in the north? Not as north as Kislev. Northish.
Very few things are as north as Kislev.
Okay. Maybe like the Midlands then, the equivalent of the Midlands, or anyway, or Newcastle. They're like they're into the wolves, right? And Ulrich is their god, so they're into like hammers and wolves.
Those two things are pretty cool.
Special character?
A wolf with a hammer.
Andy's getting bored, I can tell. Right.
I'm pretty sure the Space Wolves have already got that tied up in 40k though.
Yeah, they have. They have. Okay, here's one. You ready? Albion.
Well, we know about the giants of Albion.
Yes. Yes, we've got druids. Why haven't we seen Warhammer druids, right? Let's have a druid faction. And that's Albion. You've got bog monsters, right? Like swamp thing kind of things. Because like when the Romans, Julius Caesar's crew, when they tried to invade, or was it Nero? Can't remember. Before Caesar, he basically went back to Rome claiming that he'd conquered Britain, but in fact they hadn't even crossed the channel because his soldiers were too afraid, because they'd heard all these rumors about Britain or Albion. There's a very mystic, misty, foggy, kind of boggy place. Special characters, chariots, right? Bring back the chariots.
Chariots, what would you have pulling the chariots?
Horses.
Horses?
Unicorns.
That's a bit more exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
Unicorns with their magical horn juice.
I like it. Right. Araby. That's right up my tree. That's so good. Got flying carpets, right? Flying carpets. You've got assassins. Assassin comes from the word hashashin, right? Because hash, they used to get like kind of high on opium, and they wouldn't feel pain. There you go. What else? Araby, the magicians, right? Sorcerers. Be interesting. Jafar, right?
I don't know if he's going to be in there.
Yeah, but like a grand vizier, kind of character with a big moustache. Scimitars. What do you say, scimitars?
Scimitars.
Scimitars. Which one?
Scimitars.
Scimitar. That would be awesome. An Arabian army. I've said Norse, but Norse has been done, right? With Total Warhammer, they've done Norse, right? We've got Cathay, and they've kind of done that with the Romance of the Kingdoms thing. Classic regiments of renown. What about that?
Well, Dogs of War is an interesting one because obviously they featured quite heavily at a certain point in Warhammer's history, retail-wise, but there haven't really been any of them available for a long time now. So, is the earth ripe? Have the crops been recycled enough so that the soil is suitable to grow a fresh batch of Dogs of War units to unleash on the world? They could come up with some entirely new ones, and really it just allows them to come up with things that you wouldn't want to have a full army dedicated to. You just got an idea for one kind of unit. It gives you a bit more license to be creative and a bit more gimmicky of an army. So I think Dogs of War, potentially.
We still haven't figured out where this is going with the old world. Are they going to be like these giant armies, or is it going to be like a skirmish game? If it's going to be giant armies, you're going to need loads of models, right? Are they going to use old models, or are they going to bring out whole new models? And it's like, if so, you're going to be looking at dozens of different models required. And we know how slow Forge World moves. It's slow, real slow.
William says Dogs of War is a good way to test the market.
I'd love it. I'd lap it up, man. Which Dogs of War unit takes your fancy, Andy?
From the old ones or a new one off the top of my head?
Either.
I'd like to see a Dogs of War unit of dwarf miners.
Oh.
Maybe that have been like tunnelling their way around the old world, stopping off at various places, offering their services. Whenever you've got a dangerous bit of earth that you need mining into, these are your guys to do the job.
They'd have pickaxes, they'd have drills, they'd have blasting things.
Yeah.
There'll be some nice little, wouldn't say siege weapons, but they are siege weapons, aren't they? Miners, because they can dig underground and blow things up from underground.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good idea. So let's hear one of yours then. A Dogs of War unit.
Oh.
Audience as well, give us some Dogs of War unit ideas, other than like wasp badgers.
Well, wasn't there one called Pizarro's Lost Legion?
Which one? Which one were they?
I think they were pikemen.
There were a couple of different pikemen units, weren't there?
Yeah, that was one of them. Do you know what? These bloody headphones, put them on, and it's like I can't hear myself talking, and my mind goes blank. Yeah, I just like their backstory. They basically disappeared. There was one. It wasn't Pizarro's Lost Legion. It was another one where it was a legion that was undead. And when I say undead, there's like undead lizard men, undead humans, and undead elves, and undead Skaven and stuff. That's quite a highly sought after collection on eBay. That is, what's a collection, but unit. That's the word, unit. Here's one for you, Andy. I bet no one's thought of this one in the chat. What about this? Alternative army, the Kingdoms of Ind. IND. India, basically. Based on the Mughal Empire. Talking about elephants, right? Elephant riders, archers, hunters.
Do they have any elephants or elephant-like creatures in any of the Forge World ranges? Other than, I'm sure they've got one for Lord of the Rings.
They had the mammoth. That's an old man. It was a Chaos War Mammoth or something. That's it. Okay, done. Hobgoblins are pretty cool. I like hobgoblins. Hobgoblins and Chaos Dwarves. You can put them together in one.
Yeah, we've wildly mused and speculated on the various races that could come up. And I think we could make it like a bit of a regular topic every week. We just look at some of the viewer suggestions for Dogs of War units or armies for the old world. Because I think the conversation is going to run its course, but it's something we can dive back into in the future. And then when we get something concrete from GW, maybe something in the rumour engine that looks a bit old worldish, then we'll be leaping back in there full force, speculating and recklessly acquiring clicks.
Definitely, and you've got to sort the pictures out, Andy. The people demand it. I can't do this audio only thing, man. I'm a visual learner.
Remington can't deal with the lack of the moving images in front of him, unfortunately. You can tell that he's like been thrown off his game. Look at that face. Just a bit of an expression of confusion going. Doesn't look quite himself. However, you know what can drag you back down to earth?
Drag me.
Okay, it's time for everyone's favourite segment. And let me just fire this up and make sure this doesn't explode as well.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
Run out of time, you know.
It's time for what the hell is that? 3 miniatures represented there, currently available in the Age of Sigmar range. I have the solution written on this tiny piece of paper in front of me here, and I'm going to assume someone is going to get at least one of them instantly. 2 of them are quite easy, I think, there. One of them more difficult. I don't know if Mr. Remington's capable.
Is that what you'd call an effigy in the hand there? What is that? Is it a token? Is it a Bitcoin?
It could be a kind of a Bitcoin equivalent in the realms. So we've had some guesses already. Brad says Gotrek's hand. It is not Gotrek's hand. Got the answer right here. Kevin says Lizardman Thingy Mabob. We're going to need you to be a bit more specific there. We need to know precisely what model it's from. I expect there are at least a couple of people in here right now that usually get these very fast. What about you, Mr. Remington? Any ideas? Void Captain Bazooka says Witch Elf arm. No, it's not.
Is it a Witch Elf leg?
No, there is no Witch Elf part involved at all.
Well, the detail on the hand there is phenomenal with the paint jobs. That leads me to think it's quite a large hand. I'm going to say
you could be correct in thinking it's a large hand, but it's not a giant. Brad says Gorgon hand. No, it's not.
Is it an ogre's hand?
It may well be an ogre's hand.
Which ogre?
That's the question. Which ogre could it be?
A witch ogre? What about that as a model? A witch
ogres? Ogres dancing around a fire. That's one for Forest of Rem, I think.
Will it be dimly lit as well?
It will. Everything it tends to be in the Forest of Rem.
Lizardman standard bearer?
Nope. Raphael says Lizardmen glyph. Ninja ogre hand. Okay, so I think I will give you that one because it's not actually called Ninja Ogre, but it's the one that looks kind of ninja-like. Lizardman Glyph needs some more specificity on that. You're going to have to tell me which model it's from. If I tell you that it's something quite recent, that might help.
Oh, it's from the Lizardman Pyramid, isn't it?
Well, do you know the name of that model?
No.
Brad says Ogre Maneater, which is, yeah, the same thing. Ogre Maneater is correct. That is the hand. Can somebody name that thing that Mr. Remington's struggling to bring to his mind?
Realm Dream.
No, Kevin, it's not called Ziggurat of Doom.
That's a great model, though, isn't it? The Ziggurat of Doom. You see, that's got to be the Chaos Dwarf main thing, hasn't it? Oh, that arm is well tough. It's got a Ziggurat of Doom in it. You know, it's like.
Well, do you want me to just tell you what it's called, in case anyone isn't aware? It's called the Realm Shaper Engine.
Realm Shaper Engine. Right. I guess no one bought that.
It doesn't seem that way, does it? So what about the arm? Is anyone going to get that arm?
That's a witch elf leg, man. I'm sure it is.
It's not a witch elf. Stu says Pyramid of Copyrightability.
Oh, is it a finger?
There's not a finger, there is an arm right there attached to that hand.
No.
Okay, I'll tell you right now that it is a Slanesh model. It is not a witch elf.
Is it the Herald?
It is not the Herald. And William, it is not the Keeper of Secrets. And Raphael, it is not an Empire soldier. Okay, I'm just going to show you what it is now. Here we go. There is a solution. It is the Mask. Spelt with a Q.
The Mask.
There you go.
The Mask.
So now you know what the hell it was. There it is.
That's a beautiful paint job, isn't it? That Mask is a terrific figure. Is that the new one or the old one?
I believe that is quite new.
Oh, terrific, man.
Yeah, it's got to be new. Look how little of the model is actually attached to the base. That's a very recent GW innovation.
Well, Andy, yet again, you've trumped us.
Now, Mr. Remington.
Bamboozled us. Yeah.
Do you have your instrument to hand?
I do, but haven't we run out of time already?
We have not run out of time. We've got time for a brief trip into the Forest of Rem. People tune in specifically for that.
They do. Why do they like this? Do you know, I've got quite an itchy moustache because this is the longest I've had my moustache bit, and it's sort of tickling my top lip now. I'm not sure what to do with it, whether to just keep growing it and see if I can twirl it around.
Well, as we know, the Forest of Rem is well known not only for providing entertainment, also, you could say it tickles the internet's top lip.
Right, I'm going to have to turn my headphones off when I play this because it's really weird otherwise. Because I can't hear myself talking in the headphones, right? So it's like this whole show for me, guys, is trying to like talk to someone with your hands over your ears.
Well, here we go. Time for the Forest of Rem. Is it a chicken or is it a hen? Let's find out.
Okay, let's try this in a different key for once. Should we start positively? Let's start positively. And that's quite nice. Let's go with that, man. In the forest of red, in the forest of red, where boys become men. Forest of red. Nah, that don't work so good, does it? In the forest of red, in the forest of red, where boys become men. In the forest of red, is it a chicken or? Let's begin again. In the forest of red, in the forest of red, where boys become men. In the forest of red, is it a chicken or is it a hen? Let's begin again.
Only a few little bits were cut off this week from the audio. So you do need to get us the fully professionally recorded version of the Forest of Rem theme song at some point.
Did you like that vibe? Totally improvised, as usual, every week. Give it a thumbs down if you like, or a thumbs up, who cares? 17 thumbs up. I've got 2 thumbs down.
Okay, here we go. As you may recall, last week on the Forest of Rem, Mr. Remington encountered a giant squid in the Dwarven Mine. He was consumed, and then, by way of his charm and musical ability, was ejected from the squid into the sky, and he was sailing upwards when we left. Do you have a good recollection of what's in your sack, Mr. Remington?
I've got some stolen Dwarven gold coins.
Yes. You're wearing the haunted flesh puppet on your hand.
Yeah. I'm eating some Pringles, so maybe there might be a few morsels in there.
You have a shiny dagger.
I've got a dagger. I think that's it, right?
And your body has been modified in certain ways. You have hooves. I think you have a tail. Did you have horns? I don't think
I've not used my tail yet.
Yeah, I don't think there were any horns yet. That usually happens, though. So, as Mr. Remington hurtles into the sky, the not all that dimly lit sky, the very well lit sky, in fact, it seems that day has broken. And Mr. Remington looks down to see the vastness of the forest, which stretches as far as the eye can see in all directions. Apart from, at two vastly opposing directions, there are a pair of castles, one dark and foreboding, the other bright with maybe a bit of a rainbow behind it as well. Looks very pleasant indeed. So, a couple of possible destinations for Mr. Remington to explore later. But for now, hurtling upwards through the sky, still keeping a good grip on his overflowing sack, preventing any spillages, until above the eyes of Remington, as he hurtles up, he sees a shadow, a shape which he mistakes for a cloud initially. But as he draws closer, it seems to be some kind of floating platform that if he's not careful, he's going to crash straight into it. Mr. Remington, what will you do?
A floating platform, and I'm going to crash. Unless...
It is very large as well.
Unless, guys, you give me some suggestions in the chat, because that's what you're there for. Are those quavers I'm eating? No, they're fusion rice Pringles. Do you know what, Andy? I'm going to start using my tail in this tale, and I shall use my tail as a kind of a correcting device so I don't bang into this platform, you know, like a rudder. I'm going to use my tail as a rudder.
You're going to try to steer yourself clear of the platform so you don't crash straight into it head first.
Yes.
Okay. You should roll the dice.
Remington skull dice. Here we go. First time. Make it hot. Remington! It's a 1. That's got to be good, right?
You would think that, wouldn't you? So, Mr. Remington, unable to correct himself, as he himself confessed earlier, he's never used his tail before. Learning on the job is not ideal, so with zero training, he's unable to prevent himself crashing headfirst into the underside of the platform. It splinters and gives way, with the head of Remington poking up through it, revealing a deck. Mr. Remington is on some form of skyship. However, his entry was not casualty-free. As his head came up through the deck, it catapulted a small creature off the side of the platform. This is the sound that Mr. Remington heard as it plummeted beyond and down out of sight. You have no idea what kind of creature it was, because it's presumably dead. However, you look around to see that this creature seems to have quite a few friends. Looks like you've encountered a group of sky pirates.
Fantastic.
That's right. Sky pirates. Eye patches, wooden legs, parrots, all the usual pirate paraphernalia that you would associate with such a place. And their ship seems to be powered by a magical orb, which is creating a strong wind to blow their sky sails upwards. Mr. Remington, is there anything in particular you would be interested in doing? You're still wedged in their deck.
Mr. Dice Tails, how do you do, ma'am? He says, do I get XP for that kill?
I'll say yes.
Nice, ma'am. Right. That is called a memorable entrance, right?
You could say that.
I think it's time this ship had a new captain. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Are you going to direct it towards just the crowd in general that are gathering around you?
You betcha.
Okay, let's see how...
Very confidently.
Let's see how persuasive you are then. Roll that dice.
Here we go, guys. I think I'm going to need a 6, aren't I? Remington! Hey, he gets it!
It's a 6. Well, Mr. Remington, declaring that the ship needs a new captain and that he is in fact the man for the job. The pirates look to each other, think for a moment, go into a huddle. The sound that you hear from the huddle is as follows. Remington. Oh, Remington. And as soon as the word Remington is uttered in the huddle, they all look round. They're taken aback at the sight of such a legendary bard offering his services as captain of their sky vessel. They attempt to pluck you from the deck, but Remington is wedged in there. And they can't quite dislodge you. However, they are more than happy to make you captain. In fact, the previous captain, who was sitting on a throne in the middle of the deck, they pick him up and just hurl him overboard. Straight to his death. They were so persuaded that you are now captain, but you're still stuck in the deck with your head poking out in a comical manner. Which really I should have given you like -2 to the persuade check for that. But I think with the 6, it's a well-earned captaincy. So, your right-hand man in this new role as captain of the ship is quite a short. You suspect that he could be gnomish and stands next to you. So he's not actually that much taller than your head because he's a very short creature. He announces that his name is Bob. Bob, the gnomish pirate. He actually has 2 eye patches, but he's not even blind in either of his eyes. He lifts one of them at a time to look out in a very quirky manner. Very interesting character, very memorable. So you better not get him killed. So, Mr. Rem, would you like to issue any instructions to your pirate crew liaison, Bob?
Well, there's one slight problem. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I just woke up in an inn somewhere. So it's not like I can say, take me to, Mordor, or even take me home. So,
well, there is a mystery that you've been trying to unravel. It seems that these various cults have sprung up and these various creatures that all seem to have been under the impression that they're working under your instructions, but you have no memory of giving those instructions.
There was a name. There was a name that I was supposed to remember, and I can't remember it.
You know what? I can't even remember it now because it's been so many episodes since you brought it up, but I'm pretty sure it was something along the lines of something like that.
Okay, I'm just going to tell that, yes, I'm still stuck in the floorboards of the ship because I got propelled from underneath into the ship. I'm still alive because I'm invincible. Now I'm going to just say to this gnomish guy, take me to Krabash.
Okay, you're going to have to roll the dice to see if your memory and pronunciation is enough information to set something off in his mind.
Okay, here we go. It's a 5.
That's pretty damn good, actually. Bob the gnome, suddenly a look of realization and recognition comes over his face, and he whispers to you that that is in fact the name of an ancient swamp hag.
It's the name of an ancient swamp hag. Okay.
Yes.
Let's set sail then, yeah? Let's sail full steam ahead.
Very well. Bob points. He is then informed by another member of the crew that he's pointing in the wrong direction, so he lifts up one of his eye patch flaps and points the other way, and you'll notice, in fact you won't notice because you can't see anything because your head's kind of wedged in the ship, but everyone else would notice that the ship is heading vaguely in the direction of the dark, foreboding, evil-looking castle rather than the pleasant one. So the swamp is obviously...
I don't want to go to a dark, foreboding castle.
You're not heading directly for it. You're heading in that general direction. So presumably there's an evil swamp nearby containing the infamous hag whose name was uttered to you during an ancient ritual.
Well, are we on our way then?
You are. And as the ship travels through the skies, Remington decides to have a little forage in his sack below deck, which is still kind of just dangling there. Remington is in fact a piece of human danglage right now. And within the sack, he finds that there's a new item. Something that wasn't there before, very mysterious. It is in fact a jar. And from the smell, you can detect that it contains squid juice.
Ah.
So perhaps a parting gift from your squid comrade, shall we say, since you were able to persuade it to join your cause and eject you into the sky?
Squid juice.
Yes, a jar of squid juice. However, you're unable to open it.
You know what? I think if we might need that as fuel for the ship in case they run out, so that'd be good to keep.
Very well.
Void Captain Bazooka says right now Rem is just a talking head in the floor.
Yes, and I'm sure if someone wants to draw that as a piece of artwork, then it'll go into the Andy and Rem Show Forest of Rem official scrapbook.
Kevin's helped me out here. He said use squid juice as lubricant to get me out of this hole.
Would you like to try
I
that?
do that. I can't find any other use for squid juice.
Squid juice is incredibly slippery, so it could be used for such a task. Okay, so you're going to have to roll the dice twice now. First of all, you're going to have to try and open the jar. And then secondly, you're going to have to try and apply it. So let's have 2 rolls here.
Okay. Jar Remington! It's a 6.
Okay, so this once impenetrable glass jar, with one flick of his wrist, Mr. Remington pops the lid off. Okay, now try to apply the sumptuous jelly.
I've always had good wrists. Right, let's get the jelly applied with a Remington. That's a 4. I think that's pretty decent, man.
4, that's not bad at all. That's just pretty average. So Mr. Remington takes out a big of the squid juice, applies it like round the neck area liberally, and then attempts to like squirm his way through this hole in the deck. Unfortunately, the hole in the deck isn't quite large enough for his frame to fit through, but he is able to get through up to the waist. So he's now kind of a torso with arms commanding the pirates on the deck. But you would have to enlarge the hole if you wanted to extend any further onto the deck. The pirates, though, are quite impressed by their slippery new captain. One of them, in fact, offers you a beverage. Will you take it?
I should take it, yes. Yes, it'd be rude not to.
Very well. After your first mouthful, he informs you that it's from freshly squeezed sky nuts.
Sky nuts.
Freshly squeezed.
Sky nuts. That's worth a go, isn't it? Let's have
So
a
you gonna finish off the drink, have the rest of it?
I'm gonna have to finish off the drink. Maybe it will put this story to bed.
Very well. Okay, roll the dice then, because something interesting. Let's drink.
Okay. Remington. It's a 3. It's a boring roll.
3, well, it gives you a bit of a mild tummy ache. That's what happens when you roll mediocre numbers on the dice. So,
that's it. Okay.
Yes. At this point, the sky ship finds itself above what appears to be kind of a dark, dingy, dimly lit swamp area. Perhaps somewhere that could house an infamous swamp hag. Would you like to give any instructions?
Okay. Well, let's take this thing down. Yes, I want to take the sky ship down. I want to avoid going through the forest at all costs. I just want to land in the swamp. Right?
Do you want to order them to bring the ship down in the swamp?
Bring it down. Have they got some
Okay.
kind of loudspeaker on this ship? You know, sometimes they have those sort of things, you know? Like a trombone, a trumpet-like thing.
They do have some kind of instrument, but it doesn't seem like they've got any kind of advanced communication setup.
Well, would it be like, could they use it like a megaphone?
Potentially. You want to order them to bring you the instrument?
Bring me the instrument. As the ship's going to land, I'm going to blow through it like a trumpet call, like a conch, like a Remington's here, like a, you know, triumphant entrance. You know?
Okay, so roll the dice then. In fact, roll twice, because once for ordering them to successfully bring the ship down in the swamp, and then again for the trumpet call.
Make it so. Here we go.
So here's the bringing the ship down.
Oh, it's a magical 6. Remington's on fire tonight.
And the other?
Fanfare, that's the word, fanfare. Here comes the fanfare now. In fact, I can do it myself. I've got my didgeridoo. Which, can I do it on that instead of the dice?
Yeah, go on, you do that, and then the audience will rate it out of 6 to see what you rolled.
Alright. Problem is, I can't reach it without... Okay.
This is very exciting. So you're going to be rating how Mr. Remington operates his instrument out of 6.
Alright. Hello. Andy. Right. You guys ready?
They are ready.
Okay. I've done this for a while.
Not a good start.
Remington! How's that?
Okay. So audience, out of 6. Let's hear it. So we've got a 4 so far, we've got a 2.5. Got a 6. We've got 2 6s, in fact.
I can't circular breathe, Brad. Come on, man. I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Kevin says that has a certain swampy resonance. Another 6. A 5. Okay, so very successful. So, despite his orders being somewhat vague and his eyesight being limited by the fact that he's still half stuck in the deck, Mr. Remington's orders are perfectly understood by the piratey crew, including his trusty sidekick Bob. They bring the skyship down, lower it through the mist into the swamp. A graceful landing, soft landing, although Mr. Remington's legs are underwater now. That's where the bottom of the ship has landed. And very graceful indeed. As the ship descends, Mr. Remington brings his instrument to his lips and creates what can only be described as a beckoning call of nature. In fact, it was so beckoning that the swamp appears to be alive with movement. It seems as though every single creature in the nearby area has become aware of Remington's arrival because of the magnificence of his instrument handling, and everything has descended on this one spot, surrounding the ship. Are the creatures friendly or not? Mr. Remington, you're going to have to free yourself from this ship one way or the other. Are you going to go down into the water, or are you going to try and come up through the crevice and stand on the deck proudly with your crew?
Well, maybe we should leave that cliffhanger hanging.
I think we should. There, you can see in the swamp, over the side of the ship, you can see spears. So there's potentially some weaponry out there. You can hear roars, you can hear growling, so some monsters perhaps as well. All kinds of swamp-dwelling beings are out there, and Mr. Remington has to decide whether to face all of this potential threat, potential friend, with his crew, or whether he's going to duck down below the ship into the water and leave them to it, essentially. So that is the main choice, leaving Mr. Rem for this week. So let us know what you would do in this situation and what you think Mr. Remington should do, preferably in the permanent comments after the live broadcast, so then we're more likely to actually see it. And there we go, leaving off there. You've still got some squid juice left in the jar, by the way.
Oh,
still
okay,
a little bit in there.
There's a few suggestions here from the audience as we wrap this up. Command the swamp creatures, says Will Matthews. Captain Bazooka says up the crevice. Dice Tales says new kick from orbit. Mickey Jenver says lots of hanging tonight. Yeah.
There has been a lot of danglage.
And the best one, Will Matthews says raise the war herd. I like that. I'm going to leave this clickhammer with just, I will shout out, your king has returned.
Very well. We'll see how that goes with the swamp creatures next time. So, everyone, I think that was an emotional roller coaster. The entire show, including the slight technical issues earlier. And not even from Remington for a change, which is interesting. So, next week, we don't have any topic lined up for that yet, but at some point soon, because we're diving headfirst into Necromunda very soon, once we've got our hands on some of those books and done a bit of reading and started assembling some miniatures, then we're going to have a Necromunda special at some point in the next few weeks. So you can look forward to that. And also, this week, Vermintide, there's going to be more of that coming very soon.
Yeah.
Over the next few days, we might even possibly have 2 episodes of that if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I believe Mr. Remington has a bit of free time this week, so keep your eyes peeled for that on the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group and the Discord, which are both linked below, along with lots of other juicy things linked down there.
The Discord's awesome. You've got to get in the Discord. It's live. It's real.
Do you know what else is linked down there?
Sucks.
You know what else is linked in the description as well? Also, the brand new Andy merch store.
Oh, this is amazing.
Via Redbubble, you could get Andy coasters. Think about that for a second.
Bedspreads and pillows. How about that?
Phone cases, t-shirts, baby outfits, everything you could possibly want on there. Apart from they don't have any underwear, so they don't have thongs, which is a bit disappointing. I think everyone would have wanted the Andy themed thong.
Andy, what about a speaking pillow? So when you lie on your pillow, what is it that it says? Your catchphrase, right?
Well, it would. I think when you lie on it, it would probably compliment you. Maybe suggest that you're red hot, sizzling, tender, succulent, moist, and just run through all those different descriptors that I like to use.
I think it would say good night out there.
It would say that when you're going to sleep. But I think when it first greets you, it would have to be quite complimentary.
Some good suggestions here, and they're all asking for Remington merchandise. Andy, I don't know if there's a great demand right now for Andy stuff.
Well, they say that, but I don't think that's genuine interest.
We've got, is there a Rem walking stick? Got to get them Andy Palooza Remcon t-shirts. That would be cool. Can we get a Remcon logo?
Well, there is work ongoing at the moment on various other pieces of merch with different logos on, so keep your eyes peeled and I will keep you informed of when that's coming.
Do they all say Andy 2D6 on them though?
They don't.
Oh.
So you'll have to wait and see. Keep your eyes Not necessarily on the skies, unless you're looking for any sky ships with like Remington danglage from below.
What about a flesh wand or a flesh puppet? That's good merch.
I don't know if they have those on Redbubble, but I can certainly look into it. So, I'm going to bring up the episode thumbnail now because I spend so long slaving over Photoshop for you people that I think you have to look at it for a bit longer.
Guys, give this page a like, man. Subscribe to Andy. Hit the notification bell. Do what you got to do, man. Smash that like button. Andy puts a lot of work into the show. I don't.
So much work, in
fact. Why
fact.
it's good.
So much work that you should also pledge all your life savings to me on Patreon if you're not going to buy the merch. How about that? And speaking of Patreon, I'm going to give the weekly shout out now to all of the lovely patrons who have pledged to the specific level that allows you to get a shout out on the show. So I'm pulling that up right now, in fact. We did have a couple of new patrons lately, some of which are at the required level to get a shout out. So before that,
Andy, what's next, right, is we need to get a war band, an Andy and Rem show war band. And it's got actual models. It's got obviously Remington leading the band. It's got Andy sort of pulling up the rear somewhere. And then you've got Stu Gibson's a character. You've got Mickey Genver. Actual models. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. And Forest of Rem miniatures would also be cool. You'd have the different stages of Rem, the different characters that he kills before he gets to know them properly.
Andy and Rem. I'd love Andy and Rem minis, says Josh Page. Yes, please. That's done then. We've got to do it, man. And
I will get in touch with some sculptors and see if we can get that arranged.
Because that would be a cool prize as well, right? And we could use it in necromancers.
I'll put some feelers out there, see what kind of fee sculptors would demand for this service, and then maybe we'll put it on Kickstarter.
Definitely. As long as I look heroic, I'm happy.
If there's sufficient demand, then it shall be done.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, so before we go, don't forget to check out Remington's channel, in case you want to see a video in 2027. Don't forget to check out all the links down there, all the various social media stuff. There's Twitter, Discord, Facebook. There's various fundraising sources down there as well. There's the merch shop now. All of the kinds of wild shenanigans down there. Also, as a permanent feature in the video description now, I've put in that code that you can enter on Bad Squiddo Games to get a free chicken with any order. That's a permanent code now. That's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. So if you want free resin chickens, that's the place to go. And with that, Mr. Remington, would you like to say goodnight to the people?
I really enjoyed that show. It feels like the ones that are unprepared are the best ones.
That's usually how it goes. And I will say goodnight, but first, I'm going to thank the patrons who pledged a specific level. So, here are their names in no specific order. We have Guy, Brad, Eric, Barbara, Kim, Steve, and Graham. With that very specific thank you to those very specific patrons, all that remains to be said is, good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about